These are my grandchildren. This is Costas and Harry. These are my grandchildren. This is Costas and Harry. And they're with us there. And this is one of my signs that I take. It's backwards, isn't it? So there's no point putting
No, I think it'll be okay. What if it was your child? Would you still be silent? You see, that's the thing. Just to introduce this is Jane Kelly, everybody, who's a child protection campaigner, and I've just listened to an interview with her this morning from Facebook, and she's very, very forthright and stalwart battler, I think is a fair enough phrase, for our children. And so, Jane, let's start. You've lost your grandchildren via family law courts.
Yes, it was back in 2018. My son was being abused by an Italian partner who had 2 children very quickly after they met. And when he went to report domestic abuse, which he'd suffered for 7 years, and the children, once they came along, they just completely ignored. In the end, there were 6 counts of 6 reported crimes reported, which none of them were taken up. And then social services aided her to remove the children out of the family home, left my son on his own. And then we fought through the family court system, which was completely and utterly corrupt. And the first social worker I ever investigated was the one that committed perjury in our court, in our family court. And I found out that he had been running paedophile rings. He was 73 years old. He was the director of a Hartstein Trust, which was working out of Herefordshire and Essex. And I put something online about this gentleman because, I was you can imagine at that point in time, I was just screaming from the rooftops of the injustice that had been served on us as a family. The children were abducted in the end. Because of
so many of these cases are abduction cases, right? It's child trafficking via the state-sponsored, tax-funded family court system, and what we see time and time again is that these professionals, and it's multi-agency, right? We're not talking about just the court professionals. We're talking about social workers and a lot of other periphery. I say professionals just with regards to money, not with regards to talent or skill. But it seems like there's a case where the carpet is rolled out for these cases to come into family law. I don't want to call it family law, into these courts, kangaroo courts. And it is facilitated in so many ways to abduct and hold hostage these children so that a lot of money gets generated via these courts.
Yeah, huge amounts of money, yes. It's a huge industry, really. So many people are becoming quite wealthy as we've been looking into the backgrounds of people and their connections with agencies and government connections. And yeah, it's just astounding. And it's happening right under our noses. It's not... I'm just a grandmother that had a grievance at the beginning. Sure. I'm not... I'm not in any way, shape or form any sort of professional researcher or, when people ask me, I just say I'm a grandmother that has had a look down some what they call rabbit holes. I don't know what that means, but yeah.
I'm exactly the same. I'm a dad of 3 little boys, and this is what got me down. This is the proverbial rabbit hole. Was the fact that I'd gone into a family law court and there was not even a hint of justice or truth to be found. And thankfully I didn't spend too much money, but you listen to some people, the Samantha Baldwin case, she spent over £100,000. And
we'd spent about £115,000 altogether, myself and my son. Really, we have become quite destitute because any savings and a loan, and we just,
And people are paying through the nose for this abuse, right? For this hostage situation, right? And one of the figures I heard was it's 53 billion annually just here in the UK. But one of the things from the interview I listened with you this morning, a brilliant interview with a guy called Simon, was it?
Yeah, Simon is a good friend of mine. We're out there campaigning a lot. Sharing sleeping arrangements, which isn't, I've got a husband, but out on the streets and
campaigning hard.
He's a great guy, and he's not afraid to speak out.
Yeah, seemed very forthright too. It's great to hear. But one of the things that really caught my ear in that interview was talking about these periphery, the multi-agency aspects. You guys are talking about taxi firms. That was a new one for me.
Oh yeah, one of the first social workers I investigated just happened to come through my husband's work. And he was working for, this is what I found out, he started asking my husband for temporary accommodation near Barrow and Furness, and that really made my ears prick up, because we know there's a lot of corruption in Barrow, and there are grooming gangs in Barrow, and the police are saying that the grooming gangs don't exist. They came out on
Cumbria, right? This is Cumbria.
Oh yes, the west coast of Cumbria is a very deprived area. I mean, I would put it alongside any of Rotherham, of anywhere where there's grooming gangs. Yeah, not all of Cumbria is. You can imagine, big posh houses, but it's not like that at all. And there's very, very poor areas in Cumbria, especially on the west coast. Anyway, Barrow is one of these towns, a left-behind town, I would call it, and it was a real working man's town. There was a lot of industry there, and it's all gone. There was coal, there was, chemical plants, there's all sorts, and it's all gone. We've just got Sellafield being decontaminated, or whatever it's called, implemented or so. Anyway, so there are grooming gangs working in Barrow, and this gentleman, he kind of called himself to my husband a paratrooper coming in to help social services, and he was quite a bolshy sort of big mouth person, and so I got onto him. We set him up with a caravan, so I could get his telephone number, his email address. We knew somebody with a caravan, so we offered it to him, under the guise, helping him out with his need. He said he needed accommodation for himself, and so the WhatsApp messages started, and he said he wanted to put a huge satellite dish on the side of this caravan, which he'd already had a satellite dish for television, so I don't know if we know what he wanted it for now, but and then he said he didn't need it for himself, and he wanted to install a family in the caravan, and this family ended up to be 2 social workers. Just before the family was moving in, the gentleman that owned the caravan sort of got a cold feet and said, I don't really want them trafficking children through my caravan. So he'd also let slip that he'd been working at a caravan site called Meadowlands, and for some reason or another he needed to find another place. So Meadowlands, so this was interesting, because I'm in touch with Parents Against Grooming in Barrow, and we know that the grooming gang work out of Meadowlands caravan site as well. And this got me interested in the connections between the grooming gangs and the taxi and private hire groups. Also the fostering companies that are being set up and down the country, unregulated. And there's links to the Asian grooming gangs and the Asian fostering companies and the voluntary adoption agencies, because this gentleman was actually working for a research hospital in Qatar as a social worker. And yeah, it's a genomics hospital, specialises in genomics. At the same time, he was working for Caritas Care Limited, which is a voluntary adoption agency. And so
just to clarify on that one, there's a guy who's working for an adoption agency, but is also connected with big money Middle Eastern financial situation. When you mentioned this for Simon, the phrase that popped into my head was organ trafficking. Off the top of my head, that sounded very.
Yeah, well, it's genomics, so I suppose it's the largest research hospital in Qatar. It was built by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Here we go.
And it is also run. The chief executive is Lord Darcy, who signs your COVID letters at the bottom. He's the chief executive of that. I don't know if he still is. He might I don't know, but this was like 2 years ago. I haven't checked recently what he's up to now. But yeah, obvious links, and I did. These are my grandchildren. This is Costas and Javi, and they're with us there. And this is one of my signs that I take. It's backwards, isn't it? So there's no point putting that.
No, I think it'll be okay. What if it was your child? Would you still be silent? You see, that's the thing. Just to introduce this is Jane Kelly, everybody, who's a child protection campaigner, and I've just listened to an interview with her this morning from Facebook, and she's very, very forthright and stalwart battler, I think is a fair enough phrase, for our children. And so, Jane, let's start. You've lost your grandchildren via family law courts.
Yes.